Hello, everybody. I hope you're all doing well. Today, we're going to be talking about for loops in the context of question 1 of quiz 2. So let's get right into it. In Java, a for loop is typically used to execute a certain block of code a certain number of times. In this case, the block of code consists of k equals k plus 1 and a print statement. Additionally, a for loop is typically used to go through all of the elements of a collection, such as an array list or an array, or iterate through all of the elements of a collection one by one. These two purposes are also fulfilled by the while loop. However, the for loop is often a more compact way of doing the exact same thing. So let's talk about the syntax of a for loop. The for loop header consists of 3 Java statements or 3 Java expressions. The first expression is only executed once at the beginning of the for loop when it first starts running. It is never executed ever again. So in this case, we are declaring a variable called k and initializing it to the value 1. So let's do that. Remember, this only happens once. K is never initialized to 1 ever again. Now let's talk about the second statement. The second statement specifies a stopping condition for this for loop. We don't want this block of code to be running forever. So we have a Boolean statement, k is less than or equal to 10, so that when k becomes larger than 10, we stop this for loop. So this second statement specifies how long we want the for loop to run. So Java asks itself, is k less than or equal to 10? Is 1 less than or equal to 10? Well, yes, it is. So we go inside of the body of the for loop, increment k by 1, and print it out alongside a space. It is important to note that I am not adding an extra line after I've printed out k and a space. This is because line 5 is simply a print statement. It is not a println statement. A println statement would add a new line after I've printed out k and a space. However, since this is a print statement, everything is printed on the same line. So let's continue. Now that the body is done executing, we go to this third expression over here, which increments k by 1. This expression is evaluated after each iteration of the for loop, at the end of each iteration of the for loop every single time. So we increment k by 1. Then, in accordance with this Boolean expression, we see if 3 is less than or equal to 10. Well, it is. So we go back into the body of code, incrementing k by 1, and printing it out. Then we increment k by 1 again, because this always occurs at the end of an iteration after the body is done executing. We increment k again, change it to 5. Is 5 less than or equal to 10? Well, yes, it is. So we go into this body once again, incrementing k by 1 and printing it out. We increment k by 1 once again in accordance to this third expression. 7 is less than or equal to 10. So we go back into the body, increment k by 1, print it out. Then remember, this is always evaluated at the end of each iteration. So we increment k by 1. 9 is less than or equal to 10. So we increment k by 1 in accordance to line 4, printing it out. Then remember, once again, we have to increment k by 1. making it 11. But is 11 less than or equal to 10? Is k less than or equal to 10 here now? No. So we've hit our stopping condition and this for loop is terminated. It's done executing. So as you can see, the final answer to this problem is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, printed on the same line with the appropriate spaces. So now let's talk about something weird. What if I wanted to access the variable k outside of this for loop as such? What if I wanted to print it out after this for loop is done executing? Well, as you can see, the compiler is throwing me an error. Well, Java, I have defined a symbol called k. It's right over here. Well, actually, the variable k is only declared within the scope of this for loop. So it is not accessible anywhere outside of this for loop. It is only accessible within this for loop. What we can do instead is declare k outside of the for loop and simply initialize k within the for loop. And that won't throw any errors. It prints out 11 appropriately. Another thing we could do is both declare and initialize k outside of the for loop. So we don't even need this anymore. We can leave it blank if we wanted to. We can actually leave all three of these blank if our program would still function properly. This does the exact same thing. In fact, I can put whatever I want in here now. I can declare two new variables, a and b, initialize them here, even though they have nothing to do with the stopping condition or the third expression over here, and initialize them over here, even though they're completely unrelated. So now that we've gone over the basic for loop, let's go over the enhanced for loop, which is typically used to iterate through the elements of some collection. So we have an array right over here. We've declared and instantiated a new array of integers consisting of the elements 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And now this enhanced for loop, right? Let's dissect this. We know that every element of this integer array is an integer. 1 is an integer, 2 is an integer, 3 is an integer, 4 is an integer, and 5 is an integer. So for every integer, which we'll call cur, in the array, which is called ARR, in the array, we're going to be printing out that current element. There are actually more efficient ways to iterate through the elements of a collection through what is known as the Java 8 stream, which uses pipelined parallelism. But that's for later on in the course, so don't worry about it right now. And thank you for your time. I hope this was helpful.